we'll move on now from inspiration to the creation of it, taking the idea and moving on with it. What would you say was the first steps when you go into creation from inspiration? You finally got the chance to put the idea to some use.
Well, it's never quite simple. I wish it was, because you pick up your guitar, you plug it in, then you realize that you've dropped your plectrum down the side of the couch. So by the time you find that, then you realize you've got to tune the guitar up. You tune the guitar up, it takes about 5 minutes. Well, it should only take you a few seconds if you're really good. But sometimes it can take a while. Then you play, and like the amplifier's not the right settings, and you're getting angry. And it's a good 10, 15 minutes before you actually start playing anything. And you might want to warm up a little bit first and play some scales or chords, or maybe watch a YouTube video and play along with it just to warm up. So it's very hard just to sit down and be creative. And imagine it'd be the same as a writer. You can't just sit down and start writing. You've got this ritual thing that you go through almost. And that has to be completed first. Sometimes I can't figure out any musical melodies until I've hoovered the carpet. Because at the back of my mind, the carpet's dirty. I can't concentrate and write this music until that's done. So even going for a shower and just waking yourself up a bit can boost that. But it's never a case of just sitting down and practically playing out your ideas on an instrument.
So you sort of need the right mental state, the right focus to be able to start it. You can't just start it like you could manual labour, picking something up and moving it.
Yeah. And sure as fate, you'll be in a flow, and you'll hear your phone ringing, and you'll look at it, and you'll be called in for work like the next day, and it's your day off, and it ruins everything. So you have little moments like that, but that you got to prepare for. So if you're struggling to put your ideas down to the instrument, I would say only do it when you know you've got time to do it, and you're not going to be bothered by anybody. I usually find that some of my best ideas can range from 10 o'clock at night to about 3 or 4 in the morning, because I know that at that time nobody's going to bug me. I'm not going to have anybody knocking on my door. I'm not going to have any phone calls. Chances are I'm not going to get any Facebook messages or anything like that. I'm effectively going to be alone. I'm going to be the only person up at this time of night, and that's where most of my best ideas come out.
So the problem there would be, it's the fear of being interrupted is even worse than just having the time to explore the idea.
Yeah. Because it can be really torturous if you're playing away something and you're recording something, or you've got this really good solo down, and you hear the doorbell ring, and it's some guy selling you double glazing, and you've lost the moment, and it's gone forever, and you can never quite get back into it.
Yeah, you need that mental state, and it might be a one-shot deal.
Yeah, that's it. So, like I said, late at night time when you know no one's going to bother you.
Is it always the guitar that you would reach for to explore an idea? Is that the go-to?
It is now. I've got a few different types of guitars. I've got a bouzouki, which is kind of like an Irish gypsy, Romanian gypsy instrument. It's like a guitar, but it's a lot smaller. It's like a elongated mandolin. Sometimes I'll pick up that. I'll be inspired to write some sort of Led Zeppelin type stuff, and it's got a jangly sound on it. It sounds very sort of folkish, like Irish folkish. And that can inspire me to then pick up the guitar and do a melody on top of that with the Stratocaster. Or I might pick up the acoustic guitar because I want to play some kind of old folk style music, because that's the feeling I was having then. But generally it's a guitar though, electric guitar generally, just because they're work tools.
Right. Would you still reach for the guitar if the idea you had was something that's going to be more electronic based? Would you still head for the guitar to kind of work out the music before you'd ever touch any kind of electronic system?
I think when I'm doing my electronic music, this is where it gets a little bit different. I'm not really a huge fan of it, so I have to kind of get my head into that mindset of how one of these guys would get their ideas out. They wouldn't be able to get their ideas out on guitar, but I wouldn't be able to get my ideas out for electronic music on a keyboard or editing software. So I really have to work hard at it to try and figure out what kind of theme to go down. So what I would generally do is I would pick up the guitar because I don't know how to play keyboard.
Mm.
And I don't know how to use mixing decks and things like that. I just basically use music software. So what I'll do is, because I can't play the keyboard, I'll figure out what I want to do on the guitar, and I'll remember the notes. And I'll just basically, I've got my keyboard, and I've written all the notes on it, all across the keys in big black marker pen. But I don't care, because it'll show me where the notes go and like what notes to use. So I generally use my guitar for electronic music, using different effects, different delay pedals, and different like pedal boards that I use to make specific sounds, and I'll try and replicate these sounds on the electronic software.
So there's no real right way to go about it, as long as you can actually get it done and it suits you.
I think basically what I'm trying to say here, that music's the same regardless, whether it's electronic, heavy metal, classical. It's just the same notes, but it's just a different sound effect. It's just a different way of playing it. It's a different nuance in the note. You could have Vangelis, for example, playing Chariots of Fire, and you could have Van Halen and him running around the stage and playing these neoclassical guitar solos. It's the same. It's still the same, effectively. It just got a different instrument, a different sound effect. So it works. So it's not really a case of electronic music and anything else. It's just taking some normal music and making it sound electronic.
Do you find when you're making the music, do you push on through to a final piece, or do you make a rough version and then sort of iterations on top of that to approach a final?
For me, you're always wanting to perfect it. You're never ever happy with it. You could be happy with it one day, go back and listen to it, and hate it the following day. So you go and change a part of it. Then you listen to it the following day and you realize you hate it even more and you liked it the way it was. And it's constantly like that, changing ideas. Maybe you'll be struggling to figure out where to go with it. And you might hear something or see something or hear a song on the radio, and it might inspire you to like think that way. And add something into it. But it's one of these things where you've got to know when to stop. You really have to like know when to sit down and say, listen, I've got to stop messing with this music. I've got to stop adding to it and taking away from it and chopping it up and changing it, because it's starting to lose what it once was.
So is that just as important as the process of creation itself, is knowing when to step back and leave alone?
Exactly.
Do you ever find yourself abandoning a piece in the middle of creation? It just gets too much, you can't work it out, and you just walk away from it before it's even done?
Not so often, because, but I'll tell you what does happen a lot, especially to me. You'll be playing something like a riff or a piece of music, and you'll play it over and over again, and you'll start writing lyrics to it, and you'll be really into it, but something at the back of your mind is saying there's something not quite right about this song that I'm writing, and you won't be able to put your finger on it. Then one day you'll realize that you've accidentally ripped off a really famous song and you haven't even realized it, and it's been playing on the radio in the background. And that's where your musical inspirations come from. You've actually heard something, and some part of your subconscious has ripped it off and plagiarized it, and you convince yourself that you've written it. I mean, it happens all the time.
Yeah, I can imagine it, quite innocently too.
Yeah. And it's not so much of a big deal, because it's not like you're cheating the band out of money, but you kind of feel deep down that you've cheated.
When you're creating a piece of music, do you have an end purpose for it in mind, or is it just expressing the original inspiration? Do you think about, oh, this would be a great piece of music for a movie, a game, or dancing to, or a particular genre? Or is it just the inspiration being expressed?
Sometimes that happens as you're creating the song itself. You'll be writing away and you'll say, you know what, this would be really good at the start of an HBO television series. And maybe that will inspire you, and maybe the theme of that will make it or go down a specific route. But I think you initially know from the start roughly how it's going to end
Mm.
because you want to tell a story. And it's the same as Stephen King when he sits down and starts writing something. I'm pretty sure at the back of his mind he has a twist or a turn or some kind of ending he's going to drop on us.
Mm.
And it's the same with music.
So you
But then
start with a sort
again,
of story outline in mind, the start, the middle, the finish, but just not the details.
basically, yeah. And you know instantly whether it's going to be a song about love or which it most commonly is. Most people they start writing songs and they'll be torturing themselves for what to write about for lyrics, and 9 times out of 10 it turns into a love song anyway, because that's what most songs are about these days, and that's just something people like writing about.
Hmm.
So you know that there's going to be an ending to it. You've got a rough idea. But then again, with prog music, that's the whole beauty of it. Sometimes you don't know.
Hmm. And now we'll move on to a sort of roundup, partly covering some of the ideas we've been talking about, but in the context of Neil's own music, which I think we'll all be very interested to listen to. And Neil will be able to give us some of his thoughts on the music itself from the creator's point of view, which again hopefully will be some inspiration to other people to see that creative mindset on the work itself, rather than us all just listen to it passively as a off-the-shelf item. And
Yeah,
you've brought some music with you for us to listen to, Neil.
I did. I did. These are some tracks I'm actually working on currently with our other host, Dave Yorkshire, Mjolnir at the Movies. He's written some lyrics to some of my tracks. He's a poet, and he asked me one day when I put up my videos onto YouTube
Hmm.
and shared them on Facebook, and he got in touch and said, "Hey, I really like your music. Do you mind if I give you a hand and write some lyrics for you?" And I was like, "Of course, absolutely." So the tracks you're about to listen to they're not completed yet. They're still a little bit off from completion.
Hmm.
They'll give you an insight to the sort of thing we can do and the sort of things I like writing. And maybe if you're interested and you got some tips for us on how to make it better, or maybe you want to get involved and come along and offer to do something like
Hmm.
sing or play the piano or offer your skills, and get in contact with one of those. This is something that I wanted to do to try and bring people on our side together musically,
Hmm.
um, give them like some kind of platform to get their stuff out there. And
Something interactive that other people can join.
yeah, and the good thing about it is that in terms of actually making music and composing music, this is something, and I mean a level like this where you're actually making it and creating it with software and not just playing the guitar or the piano in a spare room. When you're actually making it and composing it with the intention of releasing it, I'm very, very new to that. And I want to show you that you can do it too. I mean, it's not really that hard to figure this stuff out and learn how to do it. If you're worried about money, if you're worried about getting funds together to get specific pedals or things you need for your computer, we are living in an age now where this sort of thing is at our fingertips. We can go online and get it for next to nothing. It's not going to cost you a lot of money. You don't need a professional studio. You don't need thousands and thousands of pounds worth of recording equipment. You can do what I'm doing now. And
Hmm.
this is hopefully going to give you an insight into what you could do as well. And I just hope you like it as well.
So I think we'll start with our first piece. What's it called, Neil?
Well, this piece hasn't actually got a title right now, but I based it slightly on the Moonlight Sonata. It's one of my favorite tracks.
Ah.
Tracks, I shouldn't say tracks. One of my favorite pieces, and it's very similar. In a way, it's not like overly ripped off from Beethoven,
Hmm.
but it's very similar. It's got that similar sort of theme to it. It's a progression, and maybe you'll be able to hear it at home.
It's nice as well to give people an example that appreciating traditional stuff doesn't mean you're tied to it. You can still innovate and keep it alive. It's not something that has to sit in a dusty museum.
Well, exactly.
Wow, thanks for that, Neil. That was really fantastic. I genuinely enjoyed that. Could you explore some of the ideas behind this piece?
Well, do you know, the piece itself originally it came about as it was going to be this crazy dance rave type track, like Beethoven sped up with this obnoxious bass drum. Then I started kind of learning how to play the little piano part at the start. It's like 3 or 4 notes, and I really seen that something special in it. And I enjoyed playing that more. And when I toned it down, and when I took myself back and looked at it, so why am I trying to turn this into like some crazy dance track when it could be a really nice piece of music?
Mm.
And it kind of evolved that back. I took the bass drum out of it. I took all this crazy special effects and all the sound effects that I had added into it. When I took it right back, it was actually a really nice little melody that was coming back at me. And I thought this would be a good song. This would be a song that someone could sing to.
Mm.
And that's when I agreed with Dave if he wrote these lyrics, and he wrote these fantastic lyrics for them. And that's what it needed. And that was something that I couldn't especially do. I don't write lyrics, but he does.
Mm.
And coming together with him writing these lyrics, it took a weight off my shoulders because I was now free to explore what I do best.
Yeah, everyone can play to their specialties.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
Which is why I really hope we find someone who's a good singer to maybe come on board and help us, because I think it's a good enough track, and we've got good enough lyrics to put this out there. We might not make any money from it. We might not become rock stars overnight, but to get involved and to complete it, which is something I don't think I could do on my own. I don't think I could make this track and complete it on my own. I really don't. I think it's beyond my capabilities. And that's what makes it exciting, because we need talent to come on board and help us do this.
Mm. And hopefully somebody listening right now either is talented in the vocal abilities or knows somebody who is. And you've heard the music's fantastic, and we'll be listening to some more pieces. So you can pass this on and say, well, do you fancy trying to take part in a bigger project? Because pulling our talents and working together is when we can make something even greater than ourselves.
Yeah. And to think that you'd be part of something that maybe, hopefully, thousands of people could hear, maybe even hundreds.
Mm.
And they're going to listen to something that you've created, you've been part of, and it's going to make their day better when they hear it.
Yeah, there's not many chances most people have to make somebody's day better, maybe even their day better many times on the way to work, while they're out jogging, relaxing at home, just feel that bit better.
Yep. And most importantly, I think it's because you're going to be making music with people who are on your side. There's no agenda here. We're not going to try and take your talents and get rich off of them.
Mm.
I think
demand that they compromise their rightist political views just to suit the studio or something.
we're also not going to like make you stand in front of swastika flags and give Zeke Hiles or anything like that.
No, we're all about the creation itself.
Yeah, and we don't get involved with this pantomime nonsense that gets you thrown in jail. We want this to be a positive thing.
And this is the way to be positive and go forward, because it's not just the creation of the music's fantastic, the music itself is fantastic, but also what it does for yourself when you are part of something like that, and when you're expressing yourself and using your talents instead of sort of masking them or hiding them or just not using them. You will feel better yourself doing that.
Yep, you will.
Yeah. Is there anything you'd like to cover on this piece, on the inspiration or creation of it, maybe we haven't covered so far?
No, I think I said everything that I think needs to be said about the track. But I would say that I really would hope that someone's listening out there and saying, "Hey, I'm going to get in contact with these guys and offer offer my vocal range or offer my skills or talents in a
Yeah,
particular instrument.
of course, because this is all about coming together and working together. It's not about us all being isolated.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you're not impressed with the first one, Neil's got another track for us lined up. And what's this one
Yep.
called?
This is what called Neon City, I think. Me and Dave have put it down as, well, this is a working title, Neon City.
Right.
And I wrote this one. I was watching Blade Runner one night, and I was listening to the Vangelis music in the background, and I was seeing what Vangelis was doing. He created a music that almost sounded like the environment in which Blade Runner is set in. You see all this horrible rain that's constantly falling, these neon lights, busy streets, these massive sort of multicultural cities where crime is everywhere. And I went away and I thought about it and how I would create that kind of feeling, how I would go about invoking that kind of emotion in people and creating that kind of atmosphere. And some people might put that down as ripping off or taking someone else's music and forging it and reproducing it as something else. But that's what music is. And I think when I listen to Vangelis, I mean, he's one of the masters at it. He's one of these musical composers. When you watch a Vangelis composed soundtrack for a movie, you know it's a Vangelis soundtrack as soon as you hear like one note. But at the same time, he also creates an amazing atmosphere, amazing tension. And I think it's good to learn how people do that. And if that means copying what they do and developing it and changing it, then that's how the only way you can do it.
But of course, in the process, you're sort of seeing how he did it, but then you're thinking, how would I go about it and doing that yourself? So you're starting off with the idea of how did he do it, but then you're moving on from just directly looking at his work to then how you would approach it in a original fashion.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so there's nothing wrong with starting off with copying someone else's work, practicing it, just the same as to learn the guitar, you've got to practice somebody else's music to learn the notes. But you're moving on from that and now creating something original.
And sometimes what I like doing is, even just for fun, I'll go to YouTube or Put Locker or some place where I can stream a movie that I like. And sometimes I'll put the sound right down and I'll look at the scenery that's being displayed in the movie. And I'll try and compose music to see if I can make something as atmospheric as what the composer for the film done it. And it's a good bit of fun, and it's like an exercise. Obviously, you're not going to be out rewriting the film soundtrack, but it will give you an ability in how to maybe start doing that and start invoking intention.
Pick maybe some of your favourites to really give you a powerful connection and inspiration to it. Some favourite films.
Yeah, or favorite scenes, or maybe an action scene, and you want to write some really fast, heavy adrenaline, heavy metal music for a particular chase scene.
That's a great idea. I've never heard anybody talk about that before, but I think that's a great exercise for people at home to try.
It is. It's good fun as well, because it's fun for a start. And when you have fun, you can start to do things that you maybe couldn't do before because you're cutting loose. It's not your movie. It's not your soundtrack. You're just having a bit of fun. And that's all it will ever be. It's not something you're composing for yourself. It's just a little bit of exercise.
It's also another way of people getting out there. If you compose your own track to a famous film, Blade Runner or whatever, you could maybe have a still, or if you found a way of avoiding the copyright demons, a segment out the film clip, and you could play your music over it, your original music with the original sound completely dimmed out. And I think that would attract a lot of attention. People would be interested in seeing it. It'd give them something visual to go with the inspiration, just as it did for yourself as the creator. I think that'd be quite an interesting project or expression for somebody wanting to get onto YouTube.
Well, there's a lot of guys doing that now. There's a lot of new musical movements now. There's all this synth wave, retro wave, new wave. It's basically 80s. This is the way I describe it. It's basically 80s film sci-fi music. And all the music you connect from the 80s horror movies, like Tron and all that. and it's jazzed up for the modern day. That's how they're doing it. They're taking imagery from the 80s and like the early 90s sci-fi movies, and they're using those images in the neon colors and the strange kind of virtual reality style imagery that they have, and that is influencing the music and or the musical creation in the artist's mind, because he or she is putting themselves into the mind of someone living in the 80s and writing music for cheesy TV 80s shows.
Yeah.
And it's quite good fun.
And it also gets you out the current mindset. You're not trapped in just your own experience right now.
Yeah. So that's what this next track is going to be. Like I said, it's called Neon City right now. It's not too original, but that's just a working title.
And so with that, let's have a listen to it. That's another fantastic track, Neil. I really enjoyed that piece. What would you say was your inspiration and thoughts behind that in the creative process? Or what obstacles did you have to get to the finished article that we can hear here? Or maybe not finished, if you've any other thoughts on it in that sense?
I really want to get the idea across in the track of this bright, bustling city, almost like the one you would see in Blade Runner or Dark City or a movie like that. And I want to get the feeling across of lights twinkling, rain, congestion, people moving in close proximity to each people, like crowded cities, places that people like me don't really want to be. But for some reason, I wanted to create music that would make people feel that they were witnessing this sort of environment I was trying to create.
But then again, people want to make exciting or spooky music for horror films. That could be, I'd imagine, great fun for a musician, but you would never want to be in a real life horror film.
Exactly.
It's entertainment. Yeah. You want to play with the emotions.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, Blade Runner was a huge inspiration behind this, because I think the film is visually really beautiful, but I wouldn't want to be in that environment that was depicted on film. I wouldn't want to live that particular time. I wouldn't want to live there at all. But I still think there's something that really nice that you can draw from the imagery.
Yeah, that makes sense. What about the technical difficulties when you get something that sounds, well, to me as the listener, quite complicated and very professional sounding, I must say? Is there any particular challenges in creating something like that?
I wouldn't say there was like any challenges, other than learning how to use the software and like plug stuff in right and get your levels right. But that comes with the process. You really that was the hardest thing for me, like getting all the levels right and making sure the bass wasn't too high and the drums weren't too high, and making things fit in time, making sure your drum beats are. I mean, there's a couple of mistakes in that. I think listening back on it, I hope nobody noticed it, but it doesn't really matter, because you iron these things out and you start learning how to do it, and but it's more fun than anything. It's not really a challenge, a rewarding challenge,
but one you need patience for, to be determined to sort of grind through the problems.
Yeah, exactly.
Is this another musical piece that would perhaps benefit from a talented singer listening right now?
Absolutely, yeah. We've got lyrics to this one as well.
And even there's an idea, if someone's maybe timid about approaching, if you wanted to either, obviously you could contact Mjolnir magazine directly if you wanted to do that, but also equally if you have something on YouTube or anywhere else of singing, or even if you sang over the top of one of Neil's tracks just to show off your voice, I'm quite sure he'd be over the moon about that. I'd be very pleased.
Oh, I would be very happy about that.
There's certainly, whatever approach anyone prefers, don't be shy about it, because the worst that can happen is nothing comes of it, and then you're right back to where you were. You won't lose anything in the process.
Exactly, or even if it inspires you, maybe get some of your buddies together that are closer by and do it with them.
Oh, I mean, the idea that this discussion could inspire even one artist would make it worth doing 10 times over, just to get yet another band or musician out there with the right ideas.
Exactly, yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to cover on this particular piece? Will we move on to the next?
Yeah, well, let's move on to the next one. This is a little bit more hardcore. You're back listening out there and you want some hardcore sort of dance music. This is something I've been working on the past few days, actually, just in the build up to the podcast Neil was coming on to. So I thought I'd make something that would give you an insight of just how kind of easy it is, really, to put these things together.
To listen to
fresh record. Yeah. It's maybe turn down your bass or whatever, because I haven't got the decibels quite figured out, and I'm not going to be made responsible for destroying people's sound systems.
Well, I'll make sure that at least the volume isn't going to blow out a headphone listener's eardrums. But
Yeah.
as for the bass, I can't do that kind of mixing wizardry. So that's up to everyone at home to work out.
Yeah.
Thanks for that one, Neil. That was another great track there. Very different style to the previous. Have you any thoughts on the process about this, the inspiration and ideas?
Well, it's kind of one of these tracks that is a bit of my comfort zone. I'm not really into like this sort of heavy drum and bass club type music. I'm not even sure what I would describe that last track as in terms of genre. But it was interesting to try and do because there is this. I think it's a bit of a fallacy. I don't like when people downgrade DJs and these sorts of artists because they're not playing real instruments and they're only using software and they're only using mixing desks. And I would say, well, I could say that, but if I can't do it myself, then I can't really criticize them for their particular art. And when you study into what they're doing, I mean, these guys, some of these DJs that are out there, they're doing incredible things with their bits of equipment, their computers, their Apple Macs. They're making some amazing pieces of music. I didn't want to be the same guy who would just criticize while not even attempting it myself. Then I realized it's actually quite hard.
With any tool, it's what you use it for and how you use it. That's what counts.
Yeah,
It can all be used
exactly.
for something positive.
Exactly. It doesn't have to be a real instrument like a piano or a violin. It could easily be some mixing desks and keyboards and computers. Well, why not? That's what Tangerine Dream done. I mean, they're all they were electronic, and they had whole computers that were the sizes of rooms sometimes just to get a particular sound effect. And
that's some
it puts
effort.
on guitar. Yeah. And they were doing that way back in the 70s with giant computers and making sound effects out of appliances that they might have had lying around. So yeah, absolutely, why not?
And you can be sure that the artists of the time wouldn't forgo some fantastic new technology that would allow them to express themselves even better or in a new way.
Exactly. And sometimes I ask myself silly questions like, if you could bring Beethoven or Mozart back from the dead and give them a massive synthesizer that they use in concerts now, the sort of thing that Rick Wakeman would play, then what would he play on it? What would he give back to you?
Oh, I think the answer for anybody that was honest would be definitely they would enjoy and use these things. And of course, if you look at historically, musical instrument innovation's been constant. There's always been new ideas, new fashions that have been invented. It's not been long ago an instrument was invented and then it's been a steady state until computers.
Yeah. And it's actually taken a long time for the guitar, in my opinion anyway, to become a solo instrument. I mean, usually it was used rhythmically in the background. Yeah, of course you had flamenco style guitar and you had amazing guitars from way, way, way back. But guitar, when they learned how to plug them in, it became something completely different. It almost took on a new character, and music changed almost overnight as a result.
Is this track one which could also benefit from a lyrical addition?
I think this is one of these things where I want to see if I could recreate dance music or drum and bass music. I'm not sure what anybody else could really contribute. Maybe some kind of help or advice and what to do, how to program drums better. Is there something I'm missing rhythmically? Is there something I could do to? Because believe me, there's going to be some people who listen to that who are going to be professional DJs going, "Hey, what's this guy playing at? That's not how you do that." And I don't mind it. I want to hear.
We're all here to improve and hopefully keep improving over time. There's it's a great thing to get advice and help.
Yeah.
And so it's a two-way thing. We're hoping to advise and help others, but anybody that wants to join in and help us, it's fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. And you need criticism like that. You need healthy criticism, because how are you going to know you're doing it right unless someone comes along and tells you how wrong you're doing it? As long as they're not like overly critical about it, and it's for doom and gloom purposes.
So criticism without cruelty.
Yeah, you might hurt my feelings, is what I'm trying to say.
Be gentle, people. Be gentle. It's true though that it's something you have to learn as an artist to be able to handle and take on board, and that'll go from day one of learning any instrument and playing it. You're going to have to accept somebody's going to say something negative at some point.
Of course, or down thumb a comment or something like that. You have to take these things on. But then again, if you watch music concerts and the things these bands go through, things are getting thrown on stage, people are shouting stuff at them, and they can handle it. They can handle it. Nickelback get rocks thrown at them sometimes.
And that's the thing. You can only imagine how much abuse you could probably dredge up for anybody that's become famous.
Yeah.
You know, it
So
would be a bottomless pit.
it would be.
Take criticism on board and consider it, but don't take it too much to heart and then just give up because somebody looked down on something you've done.
Yeah, yeah. Use it as a fire to make yourself better.
Mm. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about with that particular track? The process of coming about it. You mentioned it was a new track you'd made, especially for our listeners.
Yeah,
So,
I've been just making it since we had this idea for the podcast, and just thought it'd be interesting to try and mix it up a bit.
yeah. So it's interesting as well because a lot of people maybe not realise that you can just have this flash of inspiration and think, yeah, let's do something new. I'll make something just for that, and it's good for people to see that you can be not forced, but made almost to order.
Yeah, I mean that track was probably like one of these ones that I doubt I'll ever get around to completing it. I haven't really got the ambition to really try and make it a good track. But the other two were more personal to me because they were a lot harder work. I really want to convey a specific emotion or feeling. The other one, new one, I just wanted to make like a track that people would dance to in a nightclub somewhere.
And also it's showing off something different, a different style.
Yeah, and it just adds more to my skill set, I suppose.
Yeah, and that's the thing, exploring a different style, even if it's not one that you particularly want to specialise in, I'm sure you would pick up things that you could then apply to your preferred areas.
Yeah, exactly. Just like another craft to learn and just to you can use any music and bring an element of it and put it in there.
Hmm. Is there anything else you'd like to cover on this track? Maybe something we've not touched upon?
No, not really. Track speaks for itself, really.
Hmm.
The other two tracks I'm much more happy with, even though they're still work in processes. This track that we just played there, it was just really an attempt to see if I could replicate what a drum and bass track would be like. And I think even though it's not something that I'm going to continue to work on, really, I could absolutely use elements of it in the creation of something else in the future.
Hmm. So that's quite interesting for any musicians listening or somebody who might be inspired to become one, to remember that you can learn something from another genre you're maybe not comfortable in or a particular interest in, but you can reapply it to your own niche.
Exactly. And you can use that for any genre of music will inspire some kind of reaction from you to do something else with it. Even if it's 50s music or 60s surf music. Maybe you don't like it, but give it a listen and it might change the way you play a particular instrument or go into writing a new song
Hmm.
because you'll have that bit of ammunition in your belt.
Not something that'll ever go wrong, really.
Yeah, yeah.
Having that
It,
extra talent or skill.
yeah, it's not like you can ever look back and say, I wish I'd never learned how to play that.
No, I don't imagine I'd ever hear somebody say that.
No.
No.